Out of the Trump administration moves to reshape the federal government. The president and Elon Musk now considering a plan to eliminate the Department of Education after controversial moves at the state and Treasury departments that are drawing lawsuits and resistance from Democrats. Senior political correspondent Rachel Scott is on Capitol Hill. Good morning, Rachel.
George, good morning to you. And President Donald Trump's pick for Education Secretary has not even had a confirmation hearing yet here on Capitol Hill. But this morning we are learning that plans are in the works to dismantle the Department of Education. This morning, President Trump finalizing plans to gut the Department of Education. Sources tell ABC News the president now weighing an executive order to direct his education secretary to submit a proposal to dismantle the agency and call on Congress to eliminate it, fulfilling a campaign promise.
Your state is going to control your children's education. We're moving it out of Washington.
Education is primarily a state and local responsibility already, but the Department of Education does serve more than 50 million students at about 130,000 public and private schools, providing billions to aid students with disabilities and also to schools in low-income communities. President Trump has put billionaire Elon Musk in charge of shrinking the federal government, and the Education Department is a top target. Sources tell ABC News a handful of representatives from Musk's Department of Government Efficiency were spotted inside the Education Department on Monday. Musk is already serving as a special government employee. His team already has access to the vast federal payment system, and now has also seized control of USAID, the agency that provides U.S. humanitarian assistance around the world, locking out employees, essentially shutting it down. Members of Musk's team showed up at those offices, demanding access.
The Doge was in the building. We took down our pride flags. I took out any books I felt would be incriminating. No one was talking.
This morning, workers warned once again to stay home. USAID has a $43 billion budget, about 1% of what the federal government spends. President Trump says Musk won't do anything without approval from the White House.
Elon can't do and won't do anything without our approval, and we'll give him the approval where appropriate.
Democrats warn
Elon Musk did not create USAID. He doesn't have the power to destroy it. And who's going to stop him? We are.
Republicans responding with this message.
To my friends who are upset, I would say with respect, call somebody who cares. They better get used to this. It's USAID today. It's going to be Department of Education tomorrow.
Before our very eyes, an unelected shadow government is conducting a hostile takeover of the federal government. If you want to know how an unelected shadow government operates, look no further than Doge.
This is the Nation's Conspire channel. Welcome to today's show. They are dismantling the government, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, I'm all for the dismantling of the government. I'm all for arresting these treasonous, non-elected psychopaths who pretend to be our senators, our governors, our mayors, and of course our presidents of the United States of America. But the problem with this is being done by design. This isn't the people starting a revolution to dismantle the government and bring in a new government. This is the globalists tearing down the government on their own to bring in AI infrastructure governance. So what you're seeing happen is problem, reaction, solution. They've gotten people so agitated with certain branches of the government like the IRS and the Department of Education that all conservatives out there are calling for it to be dismantled. But they don't realize that that's what the Democrats behind the curtains like Chuck Schumer want, just like that's what Donald Trump wants. That's what all of them working together want. And they can only do this by dividing the people and getting you on board for wanting it. And now the solution is going to be fed to you as a solution when it was what they wanted all along. And it's hilarious actually hearing Democrats use terms like shadow government and hostile takeovers, because what's really actually occurred is a hostile takeover of our government. Nobody in power has been elected. There's no actual proof of any of them being elected other than the controlled media telling them that they are elected, which is part of the matrix, which is too far for people to think. To say, well, you call the news fake. Well, who gives you the results of the election? The news. Do you count them? Do we get together in town hall and count each individual vote while watching each individual go up and cast a vote? Well, of course not. So we take their word that they're elected in the first place. So the hostile takeover is already complete. Our government is fully compromised with members of secret societies, with Freemasons and Eastern Star witches. And now they're doing the globalist bidding, which is to dismantle the current government infrastructure. And again, I'm all for taking down and dismantling things like the Department of Education and the IRS. But the problem is that they're not going away. They're just being upgraded the way the globalists want to upgrade it. So you have this back and forth with Chuck Schumer and Elon Musk. And of course, all of the sheeple in the left-right paradigm love going back and forth. Elon Musk saying it's hysterical. People like Chuck Schumer, right? This is how you know that Doge is working and it really matters. This is the one shot that the American people have to defeat bureaucracy, the rule of the bureaucrats, and restore democracy, rule of the people. We're never going to get another chance like this. It's now or never. Your support is crucial to the success of the revolution of the people. So this is brainwashing 101. He is a bureaucrat. What do you think Elon Musk is? He's the richest man in the world who's coming in to dismantle the government while bringing in AI governance infrastructure. But again, as I've mentioned, most people can't think further than they can spit. So all they hear is, yes, dismantle government, and that's it. It ends right there. They don't say, well, what are you going to bring in? Well, what's the world going to look like? They just look at the insanity they've dealt with for the last 4 years or so and say, please dismantle the government, which of course they did deliberately so that people would want the government dismantled, because that's what the globalists need is AI infrastructure. So they're calling on you by creating psyops and false flags and letting trans people go into the schools and do all this stuff so that you call on the dismantling of government. So you have Chuck Schumer pretending like Doge it's not a real government agency, which is not, saying that there's no authority for them to do these things, which they don't have, right? The only authority they have is people who went and casted their vote for these people. But they really have no authority. They just own and control the military and the police, and the people obviously have been so weakened that they would never actually think to do a real revolution. So that's why Elon Musk says that this is the revolution, that don't worry about it. The rich guy, Elon Musk, he's starting the revolution. The same guy who says artificial intelligence is summoning the demon, by the way, he's here working for the Christian and the conservative out there, right? And we've seen all the photos of Chuck Schumer and Donald Trump side by side laughing it up. And of course, when the cameras are on in front of Congress, they have to play the role of hating each other. And it's as easy as that for them, right? So what we're seeing is them tearing it all down to rebuild. You're actually seeing Build Back Better continue, right? You're seeing Joe Biden's Build Back Better plan now taking place under Donald Trump, who's tearing it down and building it back better with things like the Stargate project, right? Day one, $500 billion for AI dominance. And I've warned about this for years, and nobody points it out. I don't hear anyone discussing this. That what the World Economic Forum is, what the United Nations is, the only thing they discuss, they talk about DEI stuff, right? Which people don't seem to understand what they're actually doing. They're duping people with the word inclusion, right? And the majority of people just go, oh, that DEI stuff, right? And then they're talking about AI Governance Alliance, right? So part of what they're doing with the DEI and the inclusion stuff is accelerating digital inclusion for 1 billion people. Does anyone know what that means? What is digital inclusion? Did anybody know that if you were black, you couldn't get on the internet? Or if you're Hispanic, the internet wouldn't let you on or accept your PayPal or your credit card? Huh? They just use words like this without ever explaining what they mean. What they mean is that they need to accelerate and get everybody online as soon as possible so the world is connected. Get these Starlink balloons up. Make sure that there's no escape for anybody. You couldn't go off grid if you wanted. So now that Trump is tearing down the Department of Education, you have the left and the right down each other's throats, right? And the conservatives, like Libs of TikTok, is a perfect example, right? This is a government operative. Libs of TikTok. It's not that you can't become a very popular TikToker or YouTuber. It's the fact that they continue to allow it, number one. And number two, of course, Libs of TikTok has been put on national television, on Fox News and late night TV shows, etc. And Libs of TikTok plays the role like the Daily Wire does. They get the conservatives all riled up with insane stuff that the Democrats do. So then by design, they bait them in with stuff like this. Trump is tearing down the Department of Education. He's dismantling it. It's happening and everybody's cheering, right? Well, would anybody be cheering Really, the sheeple, would they be cheering for the dismantling of the Department of Education 10 years ago? Probably not. 20 years ago? Probably not. So what did they have to do to get conservatives so on board with tearing down the infrastructure? Well, they did things like this. Public schools celebrating Pride Month, allowing guys dressed as women to come into schools and talk to 4-year-olds and read books to 4-year-olds. They did insane things by design to make the conservatives want the Department of Education to be torn down. And of course, on the flip side of it, the Democrats love the role of education and the Department of Education. Of course, the Democrats are all about government overreach. That's what the party is about. Letting the government get into your home. Let the government get into other people's homes that they disagree with. That's what Democrats like. They love being controlled. So one of the things Trump has talked about, before I get into artificial intelligence, governance, and education, because that's what it's headed towards, one of the things he's discussed is eliminating the federal government's role in education, right? So this is how they start breaking it down, bringing everything back to the state. And remember, for years, one of the things I've talked about is herding people into states with different laws in different states to make people like cattle leave the states that they're in because they can't deal with the politics in the state. That's what they're doing right here, right? Will Trump eliminate the federal role in education or weaponize it? He wants to bring it down to the state level. So in other words, he's going to go into schools and say, well, you can't talk about pride. You can't talk about this. So people in the state are likely going to get up, pack their bags, and eventually leave because they're going to get pushed hard enough that they will. And most people say, no, people wouldn't get up and leave for something like that. Oh, no. Put more of these actors like Ron DeSantis in charge, which is what they will do, who sound just like Trump, who sound like bigots, who say all the things that Democrats hate, and they'll leave. And then on the conservative end, well, what do you think will happen in these Democrat states? All of a sudden they say, hey, you know what? You're going to have a vaccine in order to live in this state and work in the state. Are you going to stay as a conservative? Well, we know that they won't. They're going to use extreme measures to herd people like cattle into red and blue states by design. This is another mechanism of it. Doing this with abortion, doing this with gay rights, doing this with the education system. They are breaking it down to state level so that people end up moving and going into red and blue states. This is why it's become a new thing. Red and blue states was not always a thing. You would hear about a state and say, oh, well, that state leans that way, right? New York City is a perfect example. Everybody says it's, other than California, New York City is the worst. It's a Democrat state. It's all Dems. It's swallowed by them, and New Jersey as well, and Connecticut. But anybody who's ever been around areas like that know that it's not actually like that. This is a psychosis that they've created. It doesn't mean that there's not Democrats there, but these are probably states that are more 50-50 than anything else. They've been making states deliberately stand out as red and stand out as blue by design so they can move people like sheeple. So back to the Department of Education and the dismantling of it. The World Economic Forum has been talking about shaping the future of learning, the role of AI in education, right? AI governance, and then break that down into AI everything. AI education, AI healthcare, AI learning. Everything is going to be AI. That's why the AI infrastructure is so important. And that's why Donald Trump brought it in day one and made sure while he brought it in case there were a few people who were suspicious about it, he started talking about eliminating DEI and that there are only two genders, because he knows, just like the globalists know who tell him what to do and say, that that's all that rational thinking people need to hear is, oh, we're going back to do genders. Great. I don't want to hear about pronouns. I don't want to hear about this. And they don't even hear a word about what he's saying or doing with AI governance or infrastructure. And it'll be too late when they actually realize what it is. So the World Economic Forum has been doing insights, reports for years about how AI is going to transform education. Same with the United Nations. Global education must integrate AI centered on humanity. And remember, they just did the test run with this in a sense. When they began doing online learning, making it mandatory because they told kids they couldn't go to school anymore, and they told you couldn't have a job anymore, and they told us we all had to lock ourselves inside and created mass hysteria, right? That was a test run to see how many kids and see how it would go with online learning. But everything is headed online. And this is a video that was just posted recently by the World Economic Forum where they talk about how artificial intelligence has to be in the school system, how the school structure needs to be a child with AI. No more need for a teacher, because remember, the teachers have already served their purpose, the majority of teachers. I'm not saying anyone out there who's a teacher, this is a shot at you. The way that teachers, just like doctors, right? We know doctors get their CDC playbook and they're told if somebody comes to you with this disease, this is how you respond. You don't pretend that you're on the TV show House or ER. You can't just give the person a natural remedy. You got to follow the playbook, right? That's what doctors do. The same with teachers. They go to these teacher conventions. They're told this is what you teach, this is how you have to do it, right? But there's always the chance that the teacher might actually be somebody who's actually woken up, right? Who's actually gotten through the programming or had an awakening while inside the school system. And suddenly they might start teaching their kids a little bit differently than they're supposed to, because they can't monitor and regulate you in the classroom 24/7. I mean, they can with cameras and things like that, but they want full control over the education, which means every single program goes to these children that is produced and created by them. They don't want any individuals involved anymore. So here is the World Economic Forum, and you'll hear people from IBM and all these major tech companies talk about how, look, artificial intelligence is taking over the world. You don't have a choice in this. There's nothing you could do about it. We might as well indoctrinate the kids at a young age with AI. And of course, the way they do this is just like the pharmaceutical commercials, where they play a nice background song. They show you people surrounded with each other smiling, right? While they read you the list of side effects like erectile dysfunction and dementia, and nobody pays attention, right? Because they hear the nice background music and they see everybody smiling and holding hands on the beach, not listening to the side effects of what Big Pharma's about to give you. This is the same exact thing. They just pretty much are telling you, you're about to be enslaved with artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence isn't slowing down. We're not going to allow it to slow down. It's the future. And you need to get on board now. In fact, you need to get on board so much so that we're going to tell you what your future looks like. And at the same time, you're going to watch your governments around you start dismantling the education system, because they're going to pretend like the people are calling for it because of all the insane things we've deliberately done to get you to want this. Problem, reaction, solution. Look at this nightmare.
Everybody knows that technology is moving quickly and changing our world at an ever-accelerating pace, but our education system is not.
Learning to learn is probably the most important skill. You need new skills to be successful in school, work, and in life. And so creating a curriculum where students develop a love of learning is number one.
We need to rethink the education system to produce not just students who do rote memorization and answer multiple choice questions, but critical thinkers, problem solvers, students who have creativity, collaboration, and digital skills.
We see right now that around us, the competencies of the children in many countries are declining. What do we need to change? Really put the money in the first years. Research shows us that by the age of 2, already the ground is laid.
Our education system needs to prepare students for a world that is surrounded by technology. Every student should learn computer science, because no matter what field you want to go into, there's not a single area you can think of that is not being impacted in some fashion.
We have large amounts of data at our fingertips. So you need to understand how you take data and create views with it to make good decisions. Forecasting, outcomes. It may be finance. It may be projections. There are all kinds of different ways we would be applying large data sets to solving problems. So data analysis is really now a basic skill. Then there are AI skills that you need to start to understand.
AI is not just a technology, it's not something I choose to use or not to use. It will be in every part of our daily life, it will be in every company's life, so we need to be ready to understand it and use it. And to understand AI so far is not part of our formal training we get.
There's now many examples of research that show students learning the same thing with AI and learning it better than learning it without AI. The solution isn't just let the kid do all of their work with AI and just hand in, here's what AI said. You need actually a well-thought-out curriculum, a well-thought-out approach where students try their hand at something without AI and then try it with AI and critique what the AI did and learn from the mistakes of the AI. The beauty of AI is that it can also help teachers create individualized education programs for students. They're doing some of the most important work of raising our children, and they simply don't have enough hours in the day for all the things that the education system expects of them. But with additional training, AI can actually help with that. Reskilling is critical because most of today's workers are not familiar with these things. But when I think about reskilling, what I think about is the 1.5 billion students in our primary and secondary education system. Why don't we give them the important skills while they're in that system today?
Last year, we did a global survey that said 50% of students don't think a career in tech is for them and don't know where to start learning even if they're interested. So at IBM, we have made our Skills Build program available to high school students and college students and adult learners. It's free learning paired with digital credentials. Not everyone has the opportunity to go to formal schooling who is talented and capable and interested. And so we've really looked at skilling and tried to take that forward.
Education and lifelong learning is at the core of the prosperity of countries. We can see from research that 2/3 of the growth difference between countries comes from how skilled is their labor force. So reskilling is actually something that is needed today more than ever. And we can only do that together because only in the companies is the knowledge actually where we need special training.
When it comes to reskilling, there's an important need for collaboration for employers to provide not only funds, but apprenticeships, internships, employment pathways, learning pathways for adults to basically develop the important skills. But education ultimately is the job of the government, and it's important for businesses to weigh much more heavily on governments on the need for education to evolve for the skills, not just the future, but the skills of today.
So again, that's what it looks like. And that all comes brought in via sabotage. How would we ever get, just think of this, 10 years ago, if I told you that we had artificial intelligence, you'd say, I don't even know what that is, right? But just say I explained what AI was. And even though nobody even understands what AI is now, just pretend I explained it to you. And I said, we're going to take down and dismantle the school system, the same one that you grew up in, because it doesn't work anymore. And you would say, wait a minute, no, we wouldn't. I don't want that. Nobody would want it. They'd say, stop. What are you even doing? They would have to sabotage in order to get what they want, which is AI infrastructure. So what do? Well, for years and years and years, you see government-owned operations like the Daily Wire pretend to be conservative, pretend to be Christian, right? And come out and every single day work you into hysteria over things like elementary school holding pride marches. Now, how does that even happen in a school? Well, psychosis creates that, no doubt about it. But the people at the top of the food chain in the school, who are local Freemasons, who are in on all the agendas, who are given their playbook to operate by, allow it to occur. The teachers are mainly brainwashed, so they're in and on board with it. Love and all this stuff that they hold the heart symbol up. They're completely brain dead, right? And then Matt Walsh and the Daily Wire and all the alt-right media, what do? They go out every day, and this is the content they give you. So what does that make people out there want when they see this? It drives them nuts. It angers them. So what does it make them want? It makes them want to dismantle the Department of Education. And when Trump does it, all these people do what? They cheer, they jump for joy, and they don't even realize that they've been worked the entire time into what the globalists want, which is artificial intelligence governance in your education system, all running through AI, right? Do you see how it works? They wouldn't be able to do this unless they created all the noise. The Democrats served their purpose. Biden played his role perfectly, or the Biden bot, the many of them, I should say. Kamala Harris played the role perfectly. They all did. Newsom, right? Imbeciles, bumbling fools. You think they're that out of touch? Do you think they're that tone deaf when Gavin Newsom's walking the streets while LA's burning and he's bumbling around and acting like a fool and blaming the people for it? Right? All done by design. Their plan was and has always been to change the infrastructure. That's what the fourth industrial revolution is. So the actors have played their part, putting you under psychosis to now want what they want, right? Because they have the solution for you, the AI governance. So, like I said, 10 years ago, nobody would have cared. No, if the topic came up in 2005, let's say 20 years ago, of dismantling the Department of Education, most people would say, that's insane. Why would we do that? I went through the school system, right? And take your ideas about, well, we shouldn't even have one in the first place. Okay, fine, agree. But let's just take the ideas out of like that. Let's just go to the standpoint of the regular sheeple, all the regular sheeple out there who have never questioned it until now, right? They'd say, we're not changing it. I went through the school system. It's great. It's wonderful. So it takes propaganda. It takes constant stories every day of men dressing as women being led into the schools and kids talking about pride and learning about, being told white people in a white country are racist, right? All that stuff. The race crap that they brought. All of it, deliberate, so that you see the result right now. Trump comes in, says he's dismantling it. The conservatives are jumping for joy. The alt-right media has done its role. And the sheeple who are conservative don't even realize that they've been duped right into AI governance by their hero. Remember, the one chosen by God, right? That's how easy it is to manipulate these people. They don't look at the fruits. All they need to see is what they want to see. Somebody who's speaking on their behalf, speaking sanely, right? And it all goes back to what Elon Musk said in the beginning of the video, right? This is how duped they are. Your support of Elon and Trump and Doge is crucial to the success of the revolution. This is the revolution that they think is occurring. Doing what the globalists want, bringing back the Tower of Babel, which is what AI governance is all countries connected as one, right? That's the revolution, right? That's what they think in their mind. They're being programmed. Oh, it's a revolution. We're on board with dismantling of government. Yeah, it sounds like a revolution. Agreed. Government does need to be dismantled. We need proof that these people are actually elected in the first place. They're not, right? But the solution is what they want. This isn't a revolution. A revolution would be arresting these people for treason when you find out that they're members of secret societies and taking an oath to one another and not the people they're supposed to serve, right? It is a deep, deep psychosis, ladies and gentlemen. And the Department of Education and some of these other things, they've already started knocking the dominoes over. Everyone's cheering for it. And again, I'm not against it. But the problem is that the solution is going to be much, much worse. Much, much worse. Everything run through technology. Yeah? You ever think about who programs the tech, right? They'll say, oh, I don't care. Trump's the president now. Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah? Imagine they put Big Mike in, right? Put Big Mike in. Who's controlling the AI infrastructure? Oh, they could change the curriculum pretty quick. Oh, they just force down your kid. It's about dependency on tech, and they're going to make everybody brainwashed into being dependent on tech. And growing up in a world surrounded and controlled by technology, it is going to be a control grid, right? It all comes through AI governance and this brainwashing that they do. It's simple brainwashing. It's simple. Words like inclusion, the Democrats fall for it and buy it hook, line, and sinker, right? Working the conservatives with insane stuff about how many pronouns and how we need to use, people have to use pronouns to announce, giving kids books saying that white people are racist. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable we even allowed it, but we allowed it, right? We allowed it. And the result of us allowing it is what you're seeing now. People thinking that this is the revolution and this is the change, when this is, again, what they wanted from the get-go. Sabotage, ladies and gentlemen. I thank everybody for being here. I hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families, as always.